Hello, today's class is on Introduction to Averages. First we'll discuss what is in the earlier classes we have discussed tabulation, diagrammatic presentation and graphic presentation of data. These techniques which we have discussed in the earlier classes, do not reveal the comprehensive picture of the phenomenon. There is a need to calculate single representative value which are known as averages. Okay, measures of central tendency are the most popularly used tool to condense the mass data and represent it through single numbers. Thus, averages are single figures which sums up all the characteristics of huge data. Now, meaning and meaning of the averages. The object of statistical analysis is to get one single value which can be represented the characteristic features of entire distribution. For this, the tabulated data need to be processed and reduced to a single representative figure. Pointing out the need for such a figure, R.A. Fisher says, the inherent nature of the inherent inability, or we can say the inherent inability of the human mind to grasp its entirely a large body of numerical data compels us to seek relatively few constants that will adequately describe the data. Okay. K.A. Yeaman states that a concise numerical description is often preferable to a lengthy tabulation, and this form of description also enables us to form a mental image of the data and interpret it in significance. Okay. Hence, by observing these definitions given by K.E. Yeamans and R.A. Fisher, will come to a conclusion that there is a greater need to develop a single numerical figure which is representative of the data. Okay. One of the important and essential measures of summarizing the data is statistical analysis is average. Average is the method of reducing the mass complex data into a single representative numerical figure. Okay. Thus, in the words of A. E. Waugh, an average value is supposed to stand for whole group of which it is a part as typical of all values the group. According to A. L. Bowley, averages are statistical constants which enable us to comprehend in a single effort of significance of the whole. Okay. For Coxon and Cowden, an average is a single value within the range of data that is used to represent of all the values in the series. Average described as measure of central tendency because the individual values of the variable usually clusters around such values. According to Lawrence J. Kaplan, statistical analysis seeks to develop concise summary figures which describes large body of quantity data. One of the most widely used set of summary figures is known as measures of location, which are often referred to as averages. Measures of central tendency or location, we call it measures of central location. If we observe all these, we will come to know that a single representative statistical figure required to reveal the data that will enable the human race to remember for a long time, and it is easy for them to remember. Okay. Next, purpose of computing averages. The purpose of computing an average value for the set of observations is to obtain a single value, okay, which is representative of all the items and which the mind can grasp easily and quickly, okay, that it will enable our human beings to remember and grasp and remember very easily. Okay, the single value is the point or location around which individual items cluster. Okay, averages occupy a prominent place in statistical analysis. Most of the statistical techniques are based on the averages. Averages are more widely used than any other measure because of their many applications. Many authors have realized the importance of averages in statistics. Bowley went to extent of defining statistics as the science of averages. Bowley defined it because of its importance and its usage. Bowley has described it as a science of averages. While emphasizing the importance of averages, L.H.C. Tippett observes the averages has its limitations, but provided they have recognized there is no single statistical quantity more valuable than an average, but because of usage importance he has made. Of course, people who do not have skill in using the average may represent misleading data, and the interpretation made on such a data may be futile. Right, next we have objectives of averages. The objectives of averages are one is to get single value representing the characteristics of the data. Okay, an average by summarizing the complex data, okay, into one single value. Facilities to get a broad picture of the whole data. In this context, M.J. Mornay says the purpose of an average is to represent the group of individual values in a simple and concise manner so that the mind can get a quick understanding of the general size of the individual in the group. If the average value is computed, fruitful interpretation can be made. Okay, thus if the data relating to the wages paid to 1,000 workers in a factory are given, the characteristics cannot be interpreted. But if average wages paid are computed, it will be useful for interpretation. Okay. Then to facilitate comparison, as the average provides a common denominator, one set of data can be compared with another set of data, and conclusions can be drawn on the characteristics of different sets of data. The comparisons can be made among different sets of data at a specific point of time, such as the average profits of a company A and company B. Okay, A and B are company on 1st January 2013. Comparisons can also be made for the data relating to different time periods. Okay, we will observe that the comparisons can be made among different sets of data at a specific point of time, such as the average profits of a company A and company B on 1st January 2013. Comparisons can be made for the data relating to different time periods, such as average profits of a company in 2012 and 2000. Same company, okay, profits can be compared. For example, if we consider COVID-19 effect, the sales of lot of companies, okay, whatever may be the product, was reduced, except essential sales are increased. When we observe the share market, okay, when you observe the stock exchange share market, you will find almost all the industries were collapsed except pharma and essential goods, okay, shares were increased. Okay, this is third one is to know about population. from his sample. Okay, if you want to know about population by taking a sample, sample is the representative of that population. Okay, in statistical investigations, sample methods are frequently used because of time and money constraint. If the sample selected is representative, the average of the sample not only describes the characteristics of sample distribution but also the features of universe or population. Thus, averages of samples are often used to interpret the characteristics of the universe. Okay, for time being and available as our resources are not abundant. Okay, because of scarcity of resources, we go through the use of sample. Of course, it represents if scrupulous care must be taken in collecting the sample and interpreting the sample. Certainly it will provide the information that pertaining to the population, features of the population. Next, to trace mathematical relationship. As the averages are expressed in numerical figures, they explain the mathematical relationship among various groups. For instance, if we know that the per capita income of Russia is more than that of per capita income of an Indian, it may not convey the correct meaning because it is not expressed quantitatively by a single figure. Okay, as we sometimes we are not able to quantify, it is not an easy task to us to reveal. Okay, we should quantify. Okay, quantitatively express the things. But if the average per capita income of Russia and India are given, they would convey the definite meaning. Okay, I am fond of something. Okay, we are not in a position to measure that. Measuring must be that should be expressed in definite terms. Okay, then only we could give some meaningful interpretation for that. Next, to help in decision making. Lastly, we have to help in decision making. The average facilitate the decision making in different fields. Averages are quite helpful in setting standards, estimating, planning, and other managerial decision making areas. Many examples, such as average sales, average production, average cost, average expenditure, etc., can be cited on cited as basis for decision making. Okay, decision making we have in our daily life. We from the morning we wake up. Okay, we used to take decisions. In the companies also need to take decisions regarding the sales, average production, average cost, average expenditure. Okay, these are the basis for making decision. Okay, next, types of averages. There are various measures of central tendencies we have. That is one arithmetic mean, and the second median, third is mode, and fourth is geometric mean, fifth is harmonic mean, and sixth is moving average, and seventh is progressive average, and eighth is composite average. Among the above averages, median mode are called positional averages. Okay, whereas arithmetic mean, geometric mean, and harmonic mean are called mathematical averages. Okay, in addition, the moving average, progressive average, and composite averages are called commercial averages. Okay, which are less used. Mathematical averages are dealt in we will discuss in the future classes. Okay, next, requisites of a good average. Okay, what should be the norms that are to be followed to be a good average? As the average is a single value which represents the group of items, it must possess certain properties. They are listed by J.F. Kenney and E.S. Keeping. According to them, an average should be rigidly defined on all the observed values and capable of mathematical treatment. Further, it should not be unduly influenced by one or two extreme values. The average should fluctuate relatively little from one random sample to another. Euler and Kendall also describe the requisites of a good average. They are given as below. Okay, average should be rigidly defined. Okay, an average should be rigidly defined so that only one interpretation can be aimed from it. If the definition is not specific and clear, it may give scope for personal prejudice and bias of the investigator. Further, the definition of an average should be expressed in the form of algebraic formula so that there can be no ambiguity in its computation. Okay. Average should be based on all the items of a variable. Every item of the distribution should be taken into account for computing the average. Okay. If the average is not so based, it is not regarded as the representative of the value of the group and it will become futile. If you are considering only a few, they may not represent the features of the population. Right. Next, average should be easy to follow and simple to understand. An average must be easily understood. Okay. If it is otherwise, its utility will be restricted. Okay. Average should not be affected by any single item. Okay. The each and every item of a variable is taken into account while computing the average. No single or group of items should unduly influence the average. If one or two values in a distribution influence the average, it should not be considered as a typical value of the center of distribution. Okay, the extreme value should not. That means extreme value should not influence the average. Another one is average should be capable of further statistical treatment. The average computed should lend itself to further statistical analysis. For example, if the mean and the median of the distribution are known, mode can be computed easily. Okay, we have an empirical formula to uh, find out. Okay, if you know mean and median, we will calculate the mode. Okay, among three, if we know any two, we will find the third one. Okay, in the same manner, for computing standard deviation and coefficient of correlation, arithmetic mean should be used. Okay. Next one, averages should have sampling stability. Okay, average should not be affected by sampling fluctuations. Okay, if two samples are drawn from universe, the average of samples should be very near to each other. The average which is least affected by fluctuation in the sample is concerned as good one. Again, the average which shows little variation and more stability should be regarded as a representative one. Okay. Next, we have limitations of an average. Okay, what are the limitations? Of course, there are a lot of advantages, but even it has some limitations. We'll we'll come to know the limitations now. Even though even though averages are widely applied in statistical analysis, they suffer from some limitations. As the average in a single value representing the phenomenon of a given series, necessary care should be taken, okay, while interpreting its values. Okay. Otherwise, sometimes it may give scope for wrong conclusions. For instance, if the marks obtained by 10 students are uh, first 6 students got 0 marks and the last 4 members who got 100. The arithmetic average works out to be what it means 400 by 10 40. If we interpret the same, okay, interpretation is made on made carefully, the figure may give wrong impression, okay, that the students are moderately intelligent, and moreover all who got passed. But 6 students were got 0 marks and they get failed. Whereas 4 students got 100 marks. Hence, scrupulous care must be taken. Okay, in interpreting that, of course, even we took the scrupulous care. Sometimes it misleads, like the example which we have considered. Then the average of a given distribution may give a value which is not found in the distribution. For example, the arithmetic mean of 10, 20, 30 and 40 is 25. Okay, which is not present in the series. The average of a given distribution may be, for example, see, arithmetic mean of 10, 20, 40, 30, 40 has given. There are 4 items. The sum of these items will be 100. Okay, and divided by the number of items, we will get 25. It is not present in the series. Okay, this is one limitation. If a suitable average is not selected judiciously, it may give wrong and fallacious conclusions. Okay. The measures of central tendency fail to give an idea about the formation of the series. Sometimes the average values of 2 or more series may be the same, but they differ in distribution and composition. Okay. For example, if we consider 2 series to help this to understand this phenomenon, one is X series and the other is Y series. X series, the figures are 100, 200, 300, 500, 400. Whereas in Y series, 800, 600, 50, 40, 10. Total of X series is 1500 and total of Y series is also 1500. Okay, if you find X bar, means the number of items are 5 and sum of the items is 1500. 1500 by 5 you will get 300. Whereas here also the number of items are, the sum of the items are 1500 for Y series and the number of items are 5 only. We will get same. Here the average values for the two distributions are the same, but their composition is different. These differences are not revealed by averages. As we know that when we see, look at the pattern of series, there is a lot of difference. But averages could not reveal the differences among the series. This is one drawback. Next, choice of an average. The choice of particular average depends upon the nature of the data and definition of representative values required for the statistical investigation. Different averages possess different characteristics and there is no average which suits all the requirements of all the situations. However, while selecting an average, a few points should be considered. Among them, one is objective. Okay, for the what purpose you are selecting, that is important. The average should be selected in accordance with the purpose of statistical investigation. Example, if all the items of the distribution are to be given equal importance, arithmetic mean is more suitable. Okay, to find out more frequently occurring item in the series, mode is an appropriate average. Where the averages are to be used to indicate the position, computation of positional averages such as median can be useful measure. If the data required, the more importance be given to small items than big items, geometric mean is used. Further, if the data requires that more weight be given to small items, computation of harmonic mean, okay, is an appropriate measure, right? And representative trait of average helps us to select which one is suitable. Representative, the selected average of distribution should represent the basic characteristics of the data. This is one. And nature of data is also one criterion to select the average. The choice of the average to be used depends upon the nature of data. Okay, next, when the data is symmetrically distributed, mean or median may be used interchangeably. Next, if the frequency distribution is made by open-end classes, mean is not an appropriate operation because we don't find mean. Open-end classes, it is not an easy task to find mean for open-end classes. If the data is given in unequal class intervals, it is not possible to determine the mode accurately. Okay. Next, according to Yall and Shaw, uh, a few questions framed by him and to determine the choice of averages. By answering the questions, we can determine the choice of average. That should be, as we have already discussed this. Uh, one question is, what is the purpose of that the average is designed to serve? Second is, should we permit extreme values in the series to influence the average? Should the average be used for further computation? Okay, and next is, what is the model of distribution? It is symmetrical or skewed? How to record the observation to be average? Natural numbers, ratios, or rates, or averages? Uh, what would be the class of units used for the average? Are the observations expressed inversely to what is required in the average? And next one is, in what sense do we expect the average to be typical? To balance the individual values, to balance the ratio, to balance the number of items, and lastly, what weights, implicit or explicit, should be used? Okay, weightages. Whether we should use explicit or implicit weightages. Okay, and while discussing the choice of average, Sechrist observed the justification of employing them must be determined by an appeal to all facts and in the light of peculiar characteristics of different types. Okay, the justification of employing them, that means averages, employing the averages, must be determined by an appeal to all facts and in the light of peculiar characteristics of different types. Euler left that the arithmetic mean is the most ideal average as it is familiar and has very wide application in statistical theory at large. The student is advised to study once again the limitations and choice of averages after going through all the measures of central tendency for a better understanding. Everyone has to okay um, repeat the limitations and size of averages, okay, in order to know the limitations and where we need to use them, or they are in a position to give appropriate results or not, that will come to know. With this we conclude the class.